And welcome back everyone, this is your host RYONBO, and I have a short story to give a yarn about. But before I begin, I don't normally ask for these things, but if you'd be so kind as to subscribe if you've been keeping up with my channel and how often or lack thereof I've been posting, I'd really appreciate it. It's been encouraging me quite a bit these days and it helps. So, the piece that you see me working on here, there's a big story behind it, and I'd like to share it with you. So, the series Ruby Gloom means a whole lot to me. Not as a series itself, but as a mindset. Let me get underway with what I mean. It was all thanks to my ambition and Ruby Gloom, a series which inspired me to look at the positives despite living in a gloomy world. This video is a testimony as to how I've come to be the person you see or hear today. From 2012 until now, I have learned about the joy, sorrows and consequences of pursuing a dream in a reality where it's not understood. My name is Ryan. I am 25 years old, and here's the story. It all started back in 2011 when I left the 11th grade. With exception to English language and technical drawing as subjects which I pursued at the time, many of my other grades were pretty mediocre. They were passes, but they were weak passes. That means compared to others, they didn't match up very well. I majored in the science subjects such as physics, chemistry and biology, but I have always wanted to draw for a living. I didn't want to become a doctor, scientist, lawyer or any of those things. In Jamaica at the time, telling your parents that you want to draw and animate for a living was completely absurd, especially if you didn't have the grades for it, and believe me, I did not have the grades for it. I redid my final year taking visual arts, or arts as you may know it, as a class, in addition with math and Caribbean history, which I already did, to see if I could do the exam and gain the passing grades I needed to move on to university programs suited to my interests. I was having a hard time then with low self-esteem and depression, as many others may do or could relate to. The home unit was already broken, so that didn't help. What did help was that portfolio I had to do for visual arts. The aim was to select a Caribbean artist that inspired me, because in visual arts, because we're situated in Jamaica and they wanted to make a focus on uplifting the youth by looking towards figures they could relate to. I figured that was why they did it. So anyway, to select a Caribbean artist that inspired me and designed some pieces which reminded me of the artist's work. But here's the problem. I could not find such an artist in the Caribbean, but I was inspired by an Asian American artist by the name of Martin Su, HSU, because of his cartoon series Ruby Gloom. I had known Ruby Gloom for years prior to 2011. What delighted me in Ruby was her bright outlook on a gloomy world. This was something I really needed at the time. Long story short, I took too long to finish the pieces for the portfolio. I took way too long, and as a result it was 2 days late. And because it was 2 days late, I automatically failed because they won't accept it that way, because I was late, even if I went to do the final exam. I officially graduated in 2012, since I went back to repeat the year, failing the one subject I wanted to pass, visual arts. So you can imagine the things said wanting to be an animator yet failing visual arts for not having a portfolio, it doesn't say very nice things. Well, so if you work in the art community and you can't meet your deadlines and you can't bring in your portfolio on time, you can understand how this looks. One of the pictures I did was one of Ruby and Iris. It went unappreciated because it didn't look good. The shadows were bright, some of the darks were not dark, some of the lights were not light, stuff like that. Afterwards, with the qualifications I had, I went on to qualify for a mechanical engineering diploma and pursued the degree at a nearby university. I don't want to name the university in particular because I had a rough time. When I started back in September of 2012, my mom had already left for Canada from December of 2011. So she had been gone for almost an entire year. So she could help me with the fees and whatnot. This is a common thing in Jamaica. You're in Jamaica, you have trouble finding a job, you move overseas for better opportunities and you help your children out. There are many positives and negatives to this situation, but I digress. During my early university years, however, things at home got worse since I lived with my sister, my uncle, and his ex in the house my mom was renting before she left. Strange situation, I know. Things at home were rocky and occasionally unfair for reasons I can't get into. In 2013, we let the place go. And his ex at the home my mom rented at the time. Things at home were rocky and occasionally unfair for reasons I can't get into. In 2013, we let the place go because the expenses were too high for my mom and stepdad to manage. Our sister moved in with her grandma and I moved to the country to live with my dad. Things got rocky on my end because my 40-minute commute to my university turned into a 3-hour commute every single day, 5 days a week. I won't get into the details too much, but things got rough. And on top of that, I was failing more courses than I passed on a ratio of 3-to-1, which meant for every 4 classes I took in a particular 3-month semester, I passed 1. My GPA was so low after 3 years that there was no helping it. Living with my dad at the time, he vowed to make the reality for me as difficult as he saw it necessary because he thought it would help me toughen up and adjust to reality and such. This helped me realize what a piece of garbage I was back then. My dad's patience grew thin over time, being that I was a full-time student without a job and he couldn't help me with expenses. Me still being there was a burden on him because me being in the home there were still expenses that he had to cover: extra light, extra water, extra food, stuff I wasn't paying for. I was in a rough place under difficult circumstances, but since my mom paid the tuition, I figured it was only a matter of time until the nightmare would be over. And as long as I had my cartoons and my drawings, I could find happiness in them somehow. This happiness was lived out until I was called into the office of my head of school in that year, which was around 2014. My head of school had concerns about my .86 GPA. That's right, .86, as in less than 1.0 out of 4.0. I have already been on academic probation for over 2 years. I was on the grounds for being expelled and becoming a school dropout, but he gave me another chance by offering me the opportunity to transfer to a bachelor program of a similar nature to this one. I would be trained to become a teacher for 7th to 11th graders, as well as being a technician. I could choose either way I wanted to go, or I could start in one and transfer into another. It was a chance for me to start over. And I sat there in the office and I looked at the head of school himself, then on the transfer forms on the desk, and I thought to myself, this was a chance for me to start over and make a difference in my life. A chance to accomplish my goals, I thought. So I took the chance and started over in that year. And this was at the beginning semester in 2014. So in September as such, I transferred from the mechanical engineering degree to the bachelor's degree, mechanical engineering diploma to bachelor's degree, in a span of 3 weeks after school had already started. It was a good opportunity, but the downside was that I wasted 3 years of my life, and it was all my fault. That same week I got an offer to pursue certifications in 2D animation at a vocational institution. So before I finished with the transfer papers, I stopped one day and I started to ponder the choice I had to make. Now it was bachelor's degree or associates in 2D animation. If I had chosen 2D animation, I would have had to leave home because it wouldn't be tolerated by my dad for me to drop out of university and to start attending this vocational institution. So my options were slim, and I needed a place to stay, so I went for the bachelor's program. I decided to take my education seriously, as well as my interest in cartoons and anime. And as a side note, I took that cartoon and anime interest in secret because I didn't really want anybody else in my family to know, because to them it seemed like a waste of time. It was in October of 2014 when I made my final decision to start in the bachelor's program that I decided to start up this YouTube channel, where I hope to be able to indulge in this cartoon obsession of mine without my dad knowing. Much to my surprise though, the first year went quite well. And the same summer of 2015, I was even able to go overseas in one of those cultural exchange programs. I worked at a pizza restaurant. It wasn't much, but it helped me save. I was even able to earn enough money for myself and watch my cartoons in peace when I had the spare time. So fast forward a couple of years to this day. It's taken me 6 years to finish a 4-year program by paying for the classes I could afford without taking loans, all while building up my interest in these different things, my drawings, my electrical background, my network, my relationships with friends and such, as well as my sanity. So even though my background is in electrical technology and electronics, I'm looking forward to a teaching job in September as a storyboarding teacher. Well, I suppose. It's been a rough journey. I could have given up my interest in drawing because they looked bad in the beginning, but because I didn't give up on my pursuits and my interest in cartoons, it was my overall ability to look at the bright side of the dark side that I am able to do all this today. Just like Ruby Gloom said all those years ago. And if you've made it this far, thank you for hearing me out. It was just a personal yarn I wanted to share, because the reason for this drawing in the first place was to serve as a reminder for all that time I spent doing these drawings that didn't look very good, and I did them again and again and again until they started looking better. So now they look like something, they come out to something, and it's even helped me get an interview for a job. It's been quite a journey, and it doesn't have to end here either. So I'll continue to do my best, working towards my goals in life and working on this channel, because I've gotten so far with it. Why should I give up on it now, I suppose, eh? And that's about it. So all in all, that's where I get my phrase from, remember to stay sharp. Because in the beginning, it's because I wasn't very sharp about certain things that many of these other things started happening to me. So because I was able to think things through, I learned to think for myself. And that's where it's at. So thank you for lending me your ear. I will leave you to the rest of the speed painting. Thank you very much.